Ladies and gentlemen, the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra are now all on my desk. Those are considered to be one of the best smartphones right now. All of them are using the Snapdragon 8 Elite by Qualcomm, built on a 3nm process, which is built on a whole new architecture called Orion with a 2-cluster setup. We have 2 big cores at 4.32 GHz and 6 small 3.53, which is one and the same for the Oppo Find X8 Ultra and the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. And yep, fun fact, clocked a bit higher, 4.47 GHz for the big cores on the S25 Ultra, and 3.53 is pretty much the same. So the only cores that are clocked higher are the big ones. Yeah, this is called Snapdragon for Galaxy. Anyway guys, this is one of the best that you can buy now with your own money. Also important information, 16 GB memory, LPDDR5X, the same here, and sadly 12 GB on the S25 Ultra. Internal storage, half a terabyte, guys. And yeah, this is also using UFS 4.0. What about the battery? 5000 mAh, 6000 mAh, 6100 mAh. All three phones are connected to one and the same Wi-Fi network. What I'm also gonna do, guys, I am going to hit the airplane mode and only leave the Wi-Fi because I don't have a SIM card inside the Xiaomi and I want this to be as fair as I can do it. So airplane mode here, here and here, and we are still connected to the Wi-Fi here, here and then here. All the phones are using auto brightness. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm just going to stop the auto brightness for a brief moment, and I'm only gonna do this to allow the phones to recalibrate themselves. All right, this is important for me. I want to use the phones and their really stock settings. I can also manually calibrate them, but since they are using different displays, I just want to not only be able to test the display brightness and if the phone will dim the display or not, but also the sensors, right? Because it's very important when you buy this phone, right? You're not gonna compare it all the time with other phones. You need to see what the phone is going to happen on auto brightness, because this is how most of the people are using that. We started off with 100%. Now only the Xiaomi is at 100%. We have 99% here, 99% here, and 100 on the Xiaomi. The first thing I would like to do is start a CPU throttling test for, let's say, 10 minutes, but then it's gonna get interesting because I'll probably minimize it and will still allow the CPU throttling test to run in a minimized window or pop-up window and then probably start again. And I think it's gonna be correct because this game is anyway destroying the phones. Also, guys, something very important, if you want to use this tool, which is really a no tool, always go inside the options and set the number of threads to be 100. Okay, 100 is very important because this is going to really try to fry your phones. Everything else pretty much doesn't make sense. And before I start the test, I also want to show you some baseline temps. 26.7 for the S25 Ultra, 26.7 for the Xiaomi, and 28.4 for the Oppo. Something very important before I start the test, there are several modes for all of them phones. Right now you can see I'm using the balance mode on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, which is a balance between performance and the power consumption. It's pretty much the same here as well, but there is also a high performance mode. Now, I am going to use the balance mode on the Chinese phones because the S25 Ultra offers standard, provides the recommended balance between processing speed, battery life, and then it has also a light performance, which puts even more priority on battery lives and cooling, which I guess kind of like sacrifice the performance. All right, so this is now clear. I'm gonna go back inside the CPU throttling test, guys, and start it in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. All right, this is it, guys. Let's see what is gonna happen for like 10-15 minutes. Let's try to measure some temps. Let's try to see how much performance we are going to get. This here is the performance indication, and this is right now in real time, so the higher means the better. And yeah, we can probably already see the S25 Ultra trying to pick like to almost 600 GIPS, 500, 550 here on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and a bit lower on the Oppo, but we can also see some of the yellow and orange or even red lines, which isn't good. So a short explanation, what does this mean, guys? If we are around here, this is the performance from 0 to 100. So if we're scoring around here, you're gonna see that the bars or the graph is gonna be green. If we start to drop the performance, which basically means that the phones will overheat or heat, and they will of course throttle, which means limit the performance to allow for better cooling and to somehow cool down the CPUs inside, then we're gonna see that the performance will drop below 80 or even probably below 60%. And this is how we start with like yellow and then orange, and then when they dropped the performance severely, or let's say when they very heavily throttle, it can go also to red. Anyway guys, let's run this for like 10 minutes, then I'm gonna probably put this in a pop-up window and I'm gonna start CarX. And again, I do believe that this is probably one of the most stressful scenarios that you can do on your phone. And yes, no normal person will ever do this, but this is why I'm doing it, guys. Let's see what is gonna happen, and let's see at the end who is going to be the winner. Fun fact, last time I compared the Xiaomi 15 Ultra with the S25 Ultra, and at the end the Xiaomi 15 Ultra overheated when I was doing the CPU throttling test in a pop-up window with running CarX and then running 3D Mark Extreme stress test. You know, it's like 20 rounds. This was at the end a problem, and then the Xiaomi 15 Ultra peaked at like 55 Celsius. As to the S25 Ultra is a more conservative thermal management. It doesn't really want to go more than 44, 45 Celsius. Of course, if you root it, yeah, you can do whatever you want with this. But also, fun fact, guys, I'm using here +2 Celsius from Thermal Guardian. So in case you ask inside the comments, this is the answer. I am really allowing the S25 Ultra to run with 2 Celsius more, hopefully to get a bit more of that performance. And as I always say in my videos, I'm not really interested on the peak performance for a short period of time. I'm rather interested into a sustained performance, which is, in my book, a good performance that I can keep on for like 30, 40, 50 minutes, maybe an hour. So sustained performance is the performance that you're gonna get over a prolonged time, versus the peak performance is the one that you're gonna get for like maybe 10 minutes and then boom, phone completely throttles, and then, you know, it's going to become a slideshow. And this is also the reason why I'm recording this video in 60 FPS. And yep, the first throttling occurs here. And by the way, I'm using the latest One UI, and the one that people are saying it's the stable one. Interesting. It's time also to measure the temps. 38.5. Okay, what happens here with the Xiaomi? Oh, incredible, it's almost the same, guys. 38.1 here, so I think it's running cooler. Yeah, 40 already for the S25 Ultra, and now the S25 Ultra is able to regain some of the performance. The Oppo is doing this like a boss. Green lines everywhere. Let's see what happens here. What? 33? Jesus. 33.4? What is this cooling, guys? Okay, wow, interesting, yeah. Who would have thought this, by the way? We are already running the test for like 5 minutes. This is weird, guys. The S23 Ultra was really killing this test, but I'm not sure if it was on 100 threads. 40 Celsius 0.4. What about the Xiaomi 15 Ultra? Yeah, like a boss, 40.8, and you can see the Xiaomi is like gradually throttling. What is the Oppo doing? What is the Oppo doing, guys? 35. Cannot even believe this, guys. 34.9. I'm not sure. Probably I have to put the phone on the back. I know I don't have really like a thermal camera. I really hope I'm gonna get one soon. But 41.1. Yeah. 40.8. So now the Xiaomi 15 Ultra is already raising the temp. And what is the S25 Ultra doing? This is so incredible, and I really hope it's not because I allowed the phone to use 2 Celsius more, because honestly, stock it should work up to like at least 44, and we are not even at like 42, it's like even not 40. Alright, interesting. Throttling down the performance, probably recovering a bit, boom, a bit like 80, above 80, boom, throttling again. Yeah, it's like a sine curve. The Oppo has an extreme graph, guys. I don't think that it ever felt even beyond 80%. But guys, what is also interesting is pay attention to the performance, because we have here a performance of 455 versus 418. So at the end we have to also see those results, and sadly the S25 Ultra I do believe it's throttling like hell. But yeah, when it recovers, it can give you a good performance. Alright, let's see what is gonna happen. Few more minutes. 42 for the S25 Ultra, 43.4 for the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, 37. This is, I cannot imagine this. Probably need to measure this on the back. Nevertheless, guys, this is right now not so important, because what is important is what happens when I minimize this and I pop up window and start the game. Because if the game runs fine and if we can still do the test, then that's a whole lot of story. Nevertheless, guys, because I'm curious, I'm gonna turn the phone on the back and let's try to measure some spot. But no, I think it's, yeah, just by touching the phone, it doesn't really feel hot. This is interesting for sure. The Oppo Find X8 Ultra is doing better right now. Yeah, let's try to measure here, for example. 46 here on the screen, 37. No, absolutely, guys. So the Oppo is doing something like 38, 39. All right, so 39 here. What is the S25 Ultra doing? 41, 40. Okay, guys, we're now here. So the first thing I'm gonna try to do this is with the Oppo. So how does this work? I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna put it in a floating window. All right, then I'm gonna try the same with the Xiaomi. How does it work? I'm gonna have to hold it and put it here as a floating window. And the same with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I'm just gonna hold it and put it here, and then hopefully, yeah, everything's gonna work. All right, you can see this is the problem, guys. Now I cannot see the graph, so what I'm gonna do right now is let me just stop the test. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here. So the performance on the S25 Ultra, the maximum one was 631 and the maximum on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra was 578. And the Oppo, guys, maybe this explains it. The Oppo only 442. The Xiaomi throttled only like 63% of the performance, and the S25 Ultra throttled to like 57% of the performance. So clearly we have a winner here. That's the Oppo in terms of sustained performance, because it was giving us almost good performance and at low as 86. Here sometimes up to 63, and we can clearly see the red lines or the red bars on the S25 Ultra. We're giving us something like just half of the performance almost. I have started CarX and I'm inside the graphic settings. As you can see, everything is set to the highest one. Also, there is no limits on the FPS. All right, let's start with the Oppo. For now, we have something like 60 FPS. Okay. I'm gonna probably try to amp up the sound of the game that I'm playing currently. Okay, yeah, not the greatest start, but I'm also throwing an eye on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the S25 Ultra. Okay, so far 55, 60 FPS, and we can see the performance here, 350 GIPS. All right. So we are able to play 60 FPS, at least from the very beginning. Let's try to check also the temps, guys. Incredible, 43.3. Now let's check the S25 Ultra. Oh, 25 FPS, guys. This doesn't look great. I had this issue on my S25 Ultra when tested it versus the Xiaomi. The graphics somehow is really very bad, guys. I moved the CPU throttling box here on the left so that I can look at the road, guys. Yeah, barely 25 FPS. And by the way, I had this issue when I tested this versus the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, where the graphics somehow is very bad. I think it's dropping the resolution, but also like the graphic details. You can see here, specifically the cloud effects are very poor. And the performance that we get, by the way, is something like 250 GIPS. Oh, it's also not the strongest one. All right, but okay, we can still play the game, I hope. Oh my god, okay, let's minimize this. I can tell you guys, this thing is running hot already. So, what do we have here, guys? 45 Celsius, woohoo! Wow, okay guys, and now the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. Not that bad from the Xiaomi, so it's throttling for sure. I can see 183 GIPS, but nevertheless, what is even more impressive is that I'm getting 59 FPS. Not that bad. Xiaomi 15 Ultra, 59 FPS, and we're getting Oh, 30 FPS now. Alright, the moment I went outside and driving on the road, but we now recovered. And we're getting something like above 200 GIPS, which isn't that bad, guys. Let's try to drive on the road here. Oh, okay, yeah. Combo lost. Okay, good. That's good enough. In the meantime, 870 GIPS here, absolutely throttling. 340, oh my god. Oppo Find X8 Ultra, guys. 44.8. 45.5, guys. We remember 2 Celsius more on the Thermal Guardian. Now let's try to play more on the Oppo. Not that bad, guys, and we are now already in daylight. Even 60 FPS sometimes. And it gives me 320 GIPS. This is good. My driving is not good, but honestly I am impressed with the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. I get a steady 50 to 60 FPS and I'm getting at the same time 280 GIPS in the CPU throttling test, guys. Remember, with 100 threads, which is simply very good. Okay, let's pause here the Oppo. 48.4, oh my god. Okay, S25 Ultra 45.3, yep, and 44ish. Will the S25 Ultra gonna give me like 60 FPS while giving me a decent performance in GIPS? I don't think so, guys. See again, see the asphalt. Like, there is this pixelization, and the graphics isn't that great, guys. And I'm running the latest update of the game on all 3 phones. And the moment I start playing, I'm not only getting like sub 30 FPS, but also my performance in GIPS on the CPU throttling test just drops. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra is really smooth and I'm getting something like 156, 57 GIPS. But what is more important is that I get an absolute playable frame rate inside the game while running the CPU throttling test, guys, on 100 threads. I'm repeating this, but I know it's not the regular threads, it's 100 threads, guys, and this is already like an overkill alone. Imagine running this very heavy game on top of it, and you can see it is very, very playable on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. Okay, on the Samsung we have better graphics and also sub performance. Let's see here what happens. 45.9. Alright, Mr. Oppo. Mr. Oppo is already at 50 Celsius. I can tell you it's burning. Right, and maybe now, guys, maybe now we are already throttling. Yeah, I think the Oppo at like 50 Celsius is now giving me the performance that I almost get from the S25 Ultra. As you can see, yeah, I'm not able to get more than like 30 FPS. But the CPU throttling test is still good. 50 Celsius, this is already like awful lot, guys. Also, there is this other thing, guys. This phone is almost like flat on the back and these phones are sitting on the bump, so I guess there is still a bit more air between the surface and the phones themselves, which I guess helps for cooling, and this is not ideally for the S25 Ultra, but nevertheless, those are the conditions. Pretty hot. 48, 49.3. What happens with Xiaomi, guys? 45, you see? Samsung said 45 is my maximum, and this is, guys, also not that bad, because remember, heat is the enemy. With a lot of heat, guys, you not only degrade your battery and maybe some of the other internal components, but over the years or months of usage, this is going to only worsen things. So some people are saying that the approach from Samsung is actually better because it will really try to preserve your phone. And again, no sane person will ever do this, but we're here for the test. Now, let's see how much we're gonna get in that state from the S25 Ultra. Alright, let's go for a drift race. At this point of time, I think it's a win that all 3 phones are still here and the game did not crash, nor the test. Alright, so you can see, yeah, like 25.6 to like 30-ish, 34 FPS. It's not great, but I think this is the maximum that Samsung decided to allocate to the main app, which is the game right now, with the CPU throttling test running here. Let me just test very quickly with the Oppo. So the Oppo now, with being almost like at 50 Celsius, I guess delivers the performance as the Samsung does. I'm not sure if the graphics here are gonna be garbled here. And what about the Xiaomi 15 Ultra? Right, Xiaomi 15 Ultra, very strong contender, guys. Gives me like 60. I can see just how smooth this thing is, right? Just compare it, guys. All right, it allows me to run the game almost very playable, I would say, and at the same time also is working on the CPU throttling test, which is a crazy thing alone on itself. But guys, enough torture. So for me, first place here is with the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, as it was allowing me to get more frame rates. The second place will go to the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, although it gives me higher temperature and almost like the same frame rate right now in the game. I think the graphics are still better, and we have this problem with the S25 Ultra. Although running on lower temperature compared to the Oppo, the graphics aren't looking that great, and I think it probably drops like a few more frames than versus the Oppo, guys. And now we are going to get the last part of the test, and this is going to be 3D Mark Extreme Stress Test for 20 rounds. Let's see who is going to survive. I've stopped everything. All three phones are like a burning hot mess. 81% on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, 81% on the Oppo, and 80% on the S25 Ultra. And it's not that bad, guys. And before I start the 3D Mark, all right, let's just see how much. 41.7, already going down. The Oppo Find X8 Ultra, 46.6. Remember, it peaked at 50, and about 44.5 on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. And before I start the 3D Mark Extreme Stress Test, I want to see how well they can play a 4K 60 FPS HDR video. And for that, I'm going to just go here and choose the highest available resolution. All right, and then start the video. Okay. Wow, HDR here. I think HDR here as well. Interesting. This looks a bit dimmer, by the way. So you know what? I'm just gonna pump the brightness, guys. For our viewing pleasure, I'm gonna pump up the brightness to the highest one. All right. Oh my God! What is the Xiaomi doing, guys? Highest brightness, yeah. The Xiaomi is definitely dimming the screen from what I can see. The S25 Ultra and the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, guys, are running it like a boss. Let's put it on a big screen. Definitely, yeah, with I think the severe throttling that Xiaomi experienced, like all the other phones here on the table. Now we are not able to get the maximum brightness from the Xiaomi, that's kind of obvious. But nevertheless, guys, remember, it gave me the best frame rate while I was playing CarX and running the CPU throttling test in a pop-up window. I'm now back in the settings with the manual auto brightness set to maximum, and it really looks like the Oppo Find X8 Ultra is the brighter one. Now I think the Xiaomi regained a bit of the brightness, so let me just reset the brightness again before I start the last test. And we're gonna be running the Wildlife Extreme Stress Test. This is gonna be like 20 rounds. Now guys, some people might say, hey, the Oppo is not pumping that much of a brightness, but I'm here looking at the phones, and by the way, to me it looks that the S25 Ultra with the auto brightness is just a bit brighter. Then the Oppo comes at the second place, and it seems that the Xiaomi with the auto brightness is at the third place. And I know this is important, but nevertheless, I'm telling you, I want to test not only the auto brightness, but of course, then all the sensors inside the phone that are responsible to provide a nice and seamless performance, right? When you're outside under direct sunlight, or when you're inside, let's say everything is very dark, so you don't really have the phone to pump up that much of a brightness. So it's important to do this, for me at least, on auto brightness. But definitely here, guys, you can see this looks really like a brighter image than this and then this. Nevertheless, 20 rounds of 3D Mark. Let's see who will get to survive at the end. And we made it to round number 12, probably even 13. That is not that bad. 42.6 for the S25 Ultra, 49.1 for the Oppo. Wow. And yeah, a humble 48 for the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. So guys, you see what Samsung are doing? That's not necessarily bad. If you want to get a balanced experience, the software, the OS will protect you from just going to these extremes. Well, yeah, you can max out your phone at like 45 Celsius, and that's it. Here, guys, remember, I'm on the balanced profile. Here you can get easily to like 50, here like 49, very easily, just like that. So it's really a choice between this or that, whatever really works best for you. up. And here we are, guys, at what is between round number 15 and 16. Yeah, the Xiaomi just first closed at like 48.3. No, this is it. This happened before. Again, not necessarily bad. The Oppo Find X8 Ultra still standing strong. My man with 50.8. Whew, it's getting really hot here. Shit. Okay, 42.5 on the S25 Ultra. Okay, so Xiaomi ended up at like 71%. I'm just gonna turn it like this. Oh my god, this is really hot, guys. Even on the back you can see 47, like almost everywhere, right, on the back of the phone, specifically here, that is closer to the SoC. Good fight. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra put up a good fight, guys. Remember, it was running CarX at the best FPS in average, even when the Oppo Find X8 Ultra kind of did like 25-30 FPS, the Xiaomi was still going stronger and also giving some nice results in GIPS in the CPU throttling test. But yeah, it is what it is. So the S25 Ultra still stands and the Oppo Find X8 Ultra still stands. It's gonna be interesting to see the end result. And we are now approaching the end of round number 20. I think both phones are actually gonna make it. Almost 43 Celsius for the S25 Ultra and 48.8 for the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. And now, guys, the end results. Okay, drums rolling. Hey, stability rating. S25 Ultra got 61.7% because the highest loop score was 5525 versus the lowest one, 3400. On the Oppo, the highest loop score was higher than on the S25, but also the lower loop score was lower. Hence, the S25 Ultra wins this. Hey, also 67% versus 68% here. We ended up at like, what was it, 71%. Honestly, guys, all these three phones are amazing and it's really your personal choice what you want to use. Do you want to use One UI? Do you want to use HyperOS or ColorOS? It's all Android 15, all great phones, all great cameras. Perhaps like these cameras are a bit better than this, I mean that's for sure. But nevertheless, guys, this has been the performance review. Let me know what do you think down below in the comments and see you on the next one. BST over and bye.